Today, August 24th, 2013, across this country, especially in Washington, D.C., there are hundreds of thousands of people commemorating the original March on Washington in honor not only of the Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King, but a sea of change that was to happen in our country. The March on Washington was about civil rights. It was about justice. It was about jobs. It was about equity and access for all citizens, regardless of ethnicity, of socioeconomic status, and of location in the country. It is very interesting that 50 years later, unfortunately, we're fighting some of the same battles, just under a different guise. One of the battles that we are fighting today is the various stand your ground laws in this country. Of the 50 states, 24 of them have some form of a stand your ground law. The stand your ground law, unfortunately, seems on its face that it's just about protecting your property or your person. Most laws say that it's about being able to step up and defend something that belongs to you in the face of adversity. However, looking at recent examples, and the most notable one being Florida, we've seen that the stand your ground law serves as nothing more than a modern way for people to create war against other people. And this is not what this country is supposed to be about. Supposedly our country was founded on the idea of rebellion against a faraway government to help people live in liberty and the pursuit of happiness. What we found in the most recent two cases that we know about, the George Zimmerman trial and the Marissa Alexander trial, is that we don't have equity in our justice system yet.
Right on.
Stand your ground laws are often invoked around personal property, as in someone's home. However, the thing that was so extreme about the Zimmerman trial was that it wasn't in defense of someone's home. Thank you. It was not in defense of someone's home. It was actually an offensive attack on an individual having the right to walk down a city street. This is something that we take for granted. Sometimes we take for granted here in Santa Cruz because California doesn't have a stand your ground law. And while I'm grateful that we don't have stand your ground laws, please believe that we do have justifiable homicide laws in California and excusable homicide laws. And just for a matter of a few words on a statute, they are very similar. So while we're out here in Santa Cruz and we're really comfortable with the idea that we're going to protest stand your ground in other states, we have to be vigilant in California as well.
Oh, yeah.
The idea that we need to protect ourselves with extreme force is something that we need to eradicate nationwide. There is no need for anyone to think that they can walk around, permitted or not, with a firearm and that they can kill another person because they look suspicious, or they're someplace where they shouldn't be, or they're the wrong color, or the wrong gender, or face the wrong persecutions for sexual identity. Stand your ground is an excuse to continue hatred. And what we can do is not only speak out against it here in Santa Cruz and in California, we can reach out to our partners in other states, in these 24 other states, and have them ask their state legislatures for reviews of stand your ground laws. We can support the federal government as they investigate various deaths that result from stand your ground laws. And we can keep pressure up, not only from social networks, our personal networks, and letter writing campaigns throughout this country to let it be known that we respect humanity point blank. There is no us or them. There is no not in my backyard or not in my neighborhood. If we are citizens of this city, of this state, of this country, and of this world, we have some basic inalienable rights, and that includes merely to exist. We have the right to be who we are, wherever we are, and not face an imminent threat of death, harm, or incarceration simply because someone else will interpret an unjust law. What you can do right now is look at the 24 states, including Florida, that have stand your ground laws. See what's going on in these states and see who actually is being convicted when they've invoked stand your ground, but see who also does not get convicted when they invoke stand your ground laws. We use Florida because it's a text case example. George Zimmerman was not convicted. He did not technically use the stand your ground defense, but that was the initial defense when we were starting to put pressure on investigating the murder of Trayvon Martin. Marissa Alexander, an African-American woman who felt that she was being threatened by her future ex-husband, invoked the stand your ground law for shooting in the air, a warning shot, not shooting at her ex-husband as a human. She shot in the air to frighten him away. She has been convicted and now faces up to 20 years in prison. It's an unjust law with unjust consequences and unjust application across the board. And this is what we here in Santa Cruz can do. It's more than just marching and rallying in the name and the spirit of Dr. King. This is a rallying point. We everywhere, our individual persons, our communities, our respective groups. We represent the NAACP, we represent WILF, Raging Grannies, the Women's Commission, all sorts of organizations, Resource Center for Nonviolence. We're all here, we all have networks nationwide and internationally. We have to keep this pressure up. We have to keep the media apprised of what's going on in all of our communities so that we can work to create change and hopefully eventually eradicate the stand your ground laws. If you don't believe that social networking can work, look at what's going on in New York City with the stop and frisk laws. Stop and frisk laws were passed a couple of years ago under Mayor Bloomberg, and there was very little fanfare except for out of activist communities. But today, because of the pressure from social networks, staying on the media and our various networks that we have across the country, scrutiny is being applied to stop and frisk laws, which inordinately impact communities of color and poor communities, and in rural areas, communities that are considered quote-unquote outside. This is how divide and conquer works. Laws are passed quietly, silently, and as long as it doesn't affect us directly, we're not going to say anything. But as we realize, one day they will come for us. We have to look at these laws ahead of schedule and in advance before they're passed. And then if for some reason these laws are immediately passed, we have to go on the offensive as far as information sharing, networking, and pushing back against our elected and appointed officials to show them that we the people can affect our republic. We the people can make a difference. We don't have to stand for stop and frisk or stand your ground. We don't have to stop for, unfair targeting of communities of color and poor communities with predatory lending schemes and horrible mortgages. There's so much going on that if we are united in the cause of humanity, we can make a difference. We can all do our part, and there's always ways to do our part. It's never over until it's over. And that's what part of Dr. King's dream was. He said that he was not going to make it to the mountaintop, but that didn't stop the dream from continuing. That didn't stop his lieutenants from working. That didn't stop women's organizations from taking up the mantle. That didn't stop organizations that were pro-immigrant rights from taking up the mantle. And in 2013, we have to continue taking up the mantle. This is our country, and we deserve to live in our country free of abuse. We can do the work. We're here to do the work. But we need to do the work together. Please remember that. Thank you.